Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Okay, I've had some technical difficulties here today, which has been really stupid stuff. Like, there's this new thing when you turn on your iPhone and you open when I open GarageBand, for some reason, the microphone goes automatically to my phone. I don't know, and I don't know how to turn it off, and I've been working with it for the past half hour, okay? I'm just going to pour myself some chamomile tea. Just gonna chill out. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the week of Oracle Podcast Astrology here. I am your host, Chase Batisse, whatever you want to call it. I like to I like to own my Borice roots. My Sicilian grandfather is here on the table with me. I'm going to Sicily this summer. I gotta go see about the roots and all the things. You know, I found out that I'm from this town in Italy. Well, I'm from a very small town called Castel Termini, my Sicilian side. And it's about a half hour away, which means, you know, I'm basically from this town called Argigento, which is where it's called the Valley of the Temples. It has one of the largest, it's like outside of Greece. It has some of the most intact, beautiful temples. It looks like Greece, basically. And it's got the Temple of Juno still intact, which is basically, she's the head goddess of during the Roman times. You know, before that, in Greece, it was Hera. Before that, it was basically, it's, you know, the lineage of Isis. So I'm from that town. I'm based from that area. So I'm going to go on a pilgrimage this summer, and I'm going to go spend some time with my ancestors, and because I do feel I have some sort of a sacred duty here on planet Earth at this time to help reignite the priestess codes and the priestess grids. So I'm going to go spend some time there. And I can't believe I've never gone. It's so wild because it's like, you do your DNA, your ancestry DNA, which, I'm sure everybody has opinions about that. But I trust the ancestry because they're Mormon, and I just don't feel like they're going to do as much with my DNA. I mean, that's just what I feel like. I feel like I don't trust 23andMe. That's Google. I definitely don't trust that. But I don't know. I feel like the ancestry, I don't know. So, I'm half Sicilian. I'm one half Siciliano. I don't even have my northern Italian doesn't even show up in my blood. It's crazy. The Sicilian took over everything. I'm literally 50%. So I'm 50% Sicilian, and I'm 50% hillbilly. Like, it's really crazy mix. So I got stories for days. I've had a very interesting lineage. My aunt was a bank robber, wild woman, and hillbillies have crazy stories, I'll tell you that much. But they're also really rebellious and wild and free, and I think that's why I am the way I am, because my mom's like that. And they don't really abide by anybody's rules. They kind of make their own rules. And then, the Sicilian side is just that's the musical side, and the very grounded in the priestess lineage, really. So anyway, I don't know how we got on that track about Sicily, but I'm doing that this summer, and I'm excited, and that's my last name. So there you go. But what we're here to do today is we're here to talk about the astrology of the week, which I was just doing some deep diving, and I was like, wow. Who says that? What's that actor that says that? Wow. Oh, like Owen Wilson. Wow. I hung out with Owen Wilson a little bit when I was in Maui. He's an interesting guy. Anyway, so alrighty. So we're gonna this week is kind of an intense week. So last week I was talking about the energies of things starting to move into Aries, and this week we have Saturn basically moving into Aries. We have nothing left in Pisces. I mean, we had a massive stellium 2 months ago. It was like 5-6 planets in Pisces. It was so nutty, man. Everything's moved on. So this is the last little bit here, which is Saturn, and she's at 29 degrees. And this week she's moving into Aries at 0 degrees, which is very, very, very important. So I want to talk about the significance of this because we just had Neptune as well that moved into Aries. And so Um, I, this is kind of a big deal because Aries is the beginning of the zodiac. Aries is the beginning of everything. So this is kind of the beginning of a 29-year cycle, actually, with Saturn. And, I'm going to do a deep dive. I'll do a deep dive in Saturn today. And, Saturn and Aries especially. And, kind of talk about what this means. I've come to really, in astrology, people have all these thoughts and ideas about certain planets and archetypes. And I really enjoy, it sounds weird, but I've come to enjoy Saturn. Because, I've realized Saturn is really about maturity, right? And how many of us have spent so much of our lives, I know myself, just, when we're immature, right? It's like we're acting out of a lot of our wounds. That's what I would say immaturity is. Because I was somebody that was born very wise, but then I would still be immature sometimes, meaning because I would make bad decisions. And I've really come to reflect on those decisions and the choices that I've made in the past. And I'm like, it's so clear. It's clear as day that they were still out of these wounds that I hadn't fully processed or worked through. And, Saturn is, it's the Lord of Karma. It's called the Lord of Karma. It rules time, materiality, density. It rules a lot of rationality, linear thinking. I mean, it can be really boring, Saturn. Oh my God. I mean, for somebody like me that has like 20 planets in fire, I'm just like, oh my God, please get me out of here. Get me out of this Saturn box. No. But in my chart, I have my Saturn conjunct Pluto, and, it's an important piece. Your Saturn is really important. It gives you a lot of information. A lot of astrologers work with it in terms of past life stuff. It has a lot to do with, the dynamics that you are here to master. So Saturn rules mastery, and that's why ultimately it rules maturity. It rules control. Getting control of things. And so whatever sign your Saturn is in, that is your life lesson for this lifetime. So it's the thing that you are here to master. Most likely it's the thing that you have immaturity in, or the thing you avoid, or the thing that's hard for you to get control of. And it's the thing you're meant to rein in, that you're meant to really focus on and really dive deep into to mature and grow. Because the reason why it's called the Lord of Karma, Saturn, is because your karma is dictated by these loops. And loops are basically when we are going through the same loop over and over and over, and we're making the same decisions over and over and over. We get the same results over and over and over. And that gets exhausting. I know it exhausts me. And that's not what I'm here for. I don't know if you're here for that. I doubt it. None of us are here for that. We're here, but sometimes it takes us a long time. Okay? No shade for that. But we want to ideally, right? Because nothing feels better in life than making better decisions. Doesn't it? Doesn't it though? Where you're like, pat on the back. I made a good decision and I'm making wise choices and I'm growing up. That's what growing up is. And it's doing hard things. That's why Saturn, in a lot of ways, it rules work. Discipline. But once you kind of come to another thing I realize is when you don't have good boundaries, it also rules boundaries. Oh my God, this is also clear. Maybe that's why I'm becoming better friends with Saturn. That's it. Because when you don't have clear boundaries, you have a hard time. Boundaries are basically the key to self-worth. And they're so subtle and energetic. I'm writing a book on it right now. And they're so subtle and energetic. And without boundaries, you can't build a container of self-worth. And if you don't have self-worth, it's very hard to take responsibility. Saturn rules responsibility for things because you don't feel like you're good enough or you know how to. Because you don't feel good about yourself. So it's like all of the work that goes into like making yourself stronger, more fortified, more responsible. I used to think of it as a lot of it like disciplinary and like harsh, like exhausting, but it doesn't really have to be like that. It's really about, for me, it's wow. Also, I'm realizing, yeah, I've gone through a real, I would say, awakening. Honestly, in the past 6 months, I would say I've gone through a legitimate spiritual awakening. I've had many people reflect this back to me as well that I have, and the process of that has been through owning my internal masculine. This is kind of alchemical what I'm saying, but basically it's that when you really start to protect yourself and create boundaries and structures inside of yourself and handle, it's the marriage, the internal marriage of the feminine and the masculine. And, for many years as a wild woman, which I ran away from structure. I ran away from discipline. I ran away from responsibility. I ran away from any of that shit. I just want to be free, free, free. Don't put anything on me. I wanted to be free. Freedom. One of my favorite songs of all time is George Michael's Freedom. That is probably one of my top favorite songs of all time. I mean, you can scream that shit so loud, And freedom has been one of the most important virtues of my entire life. And it's taken me so long to understand what freedom is. I used to think freedom was the ability to go travel, nothing weighing you down. Real freedom is when you are not weighed down by fear. I used to think, I was I've always been pretty fearless. Today we're going to talk a lot about courage because that's what Saturn in Aries is about. But I've always considered myself, I've always been pretty bold and courageous. And, I remember when I was 19, I went and backpacked around Europe by myself and, I didn't know what I was doing. Thank God I made it home alive. I had some really fun times though. Oh my God. A really fun time. I went to this, in Berlin. Oh my God, Berlin was so cool. Anyway, I digress. I got stories for days. But, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, I used to think that, I would make choices like that and think that I had a lot of courage. But a lot of times that traveling like that, it's a lot of running away. And, my mom was the queen of that. She moved I can't tell you how many times we moved when I was a kid. It really destabilized me. And that was her reaction because she had such a traumatic childhood. That's just what she would do. She'd just get up and move, which there's a lot of freedom in that, but there's also a lot of destabilization. And what you're essentially doing is you're also running. And what I've come to realize now that I am solidly in this house in Joshua Tree and I don't feel the same need to want to move the same way that I used to, move, yes. But travel, I still want to travel, but I don't feel the same desperate need to travel. You know how sometimes you have that desperate need? You're like, oh God, get me out of here. And it's really coming from like, get me out of my life. I don't like my life. Right? I want something new. I want something I want a different perspective, right? I want a different vantage point. I want a different point of view, right? And I just lived in that space for so many years. And then little by little, I became more and more grounded, took on more and more responsibility. And through that process, did a lot of shadow work. And through that process, I found out that real freedom is that when you start to become free from fear and actually doing your soul's work is kind of the most satisfying thing in the world. And then making better choices. Making better choices. So let's talk about Saturn and going into Aries. So I talked about the energy of Saturn, okay? So now we talk about the energy of Aries, which I love in Aries. I'm not going to lie. I love Aries. It was so funny because I was kind of thinking to myself, I was like, if I was going to date somebody again, I was like going through every sign and thinking about like what sign I would date. So stupid. It's what astrologers do in their meantime. And the only one I was thinking I would date were the two were an Aries and a Sagittarius. And you know what? My freaking horse, he's an Aries. Oh my God, is he an Aries? Is he a hunk? Me and Spirit is a hunk. My gosh. I'm in love. It's so funny because I've been doing my tarot. You know, I do my tarot like here and there. I'll do it in the mornings. And I've been getting the Two of Cups and the Lovers. And I'm like, whoa, is somebody new coming into my life? And I'm like, and I'm pretty sure it's my horse. Pretty sure my horse is going to be the love of my life. Anyway, he is a spectacular animal. And he has never, you know, he's very kind of probably like traditionally handled. Even though he's such a good boy. Oh my God. I feel so safe on him. He's so attuned. Even though he's huge. But he's never had the sensitivity of what I'm giving him, which is like real subtle energy. And just very lightly just loving him. And he sometimes, when I first got him, when he got off of the trailer, he looks me like we're eye to eye because he's so tall, and he'll look me straight in the eyeball. Lately, we've been looking straight each other, straight in the eyeball, and he's talking to me, man. And he's just never. He's so ready for it though. He's so ready for this level of like subtle, energetic, to really be heard and listened to and loved. You know, and all of us are like that, aren't we? We've been in these systems. Exhaustive systems that don't see our humanity or our subtle essence or our true authenticity, and just asked to perform and just work. And we're all ready to be seen, right? So anyway, that's I'm talking about my horse, but it's all connected because it's the Aries energy. Aries energy is really, it's really bold. It's life. It's the beginning of the zodiac. So what I'm feeling, okay, is that we are massively, okay, so like this last week's full moon in Scorpio was a doozy, okay? Let's get real. Last week's full moon in Scorpio was a doozy, and it was amazing, but also like I had some real stuff I had to process, like massive, and I felt massive release. So much release. And we're at the end of a massive cycle with this many things going into Aries, and we're in the year of the snake. The feminine is rising. We're shifting paradigms. 5D, age of Aquarius. Let's go. I mean, it's intense, and it's like there is a new energy. It's so exciting. I love Aries because I have an Aries moon. I got Mars in my ascendant. But like, so Mars is the planet of Aries. And so, you know, it's just do. It's action oriented. It's let's go, let's build, let's create. It doesn't hesitate. It has courage. That's why it's the warrior archetype. It doesn't let fear hold it back. And, you know, that's what you have to have when you're building new worlds. You know, the Big Bang wasn't afraid. A little sperm fertilizing a seed isn't afraid. You know, pioneering new shit. You cannot be even 1 ounce invested in fear. You got to be more curious, alive, and following your instincts. And that is what Aries is about. It's really connected to nature and the vibrant, powerful, electric, exciting, pulsing, sexual movement of the earth and the cosmos. What creates? Aries is bold. It's, you know, aside from Scorpio, it's the most sexual sign of the zodiac, you know? It's primal. And so we're at the beginning with Saturn going into Aries. We are at the beginning of a massive cycle of initiation right now, of starting to build new things. So I have some themes here around Saturn going into Aries that we'll talk about. So radical responsibility for your path, building life that aligns with the self, building a life that aligns with the self. Number 1, identity crystallization. Defining yourself on your own terms, especially where you've been overly influenced by others' expectations. That's a good one. Because, as we're entering the age of Aquarius, we also have the age. Now we have all this, that's Aquarian energy is very much about individuation and authenticity and not really allowing other people's projections or to get to you, to get to the better of you. And, really starting to define yourself, is a pretty revolutionary act these days. I was just doing a really deep dive yesterday on the energy of projection, and it's going to be part of my book because I kind of realized that that's kind of how the world's been going around, spinning round and round, is that people will have pain, whether it's usually somebody causing it, which is the cycle of abuse and trauma and epigenetics, this and that, whatever. Somebody will shame somebody else because they will shame that person because of their trauma and how somebody shamed them that they've never been able to fully look at, own, and integrate. So they will project their pain onto someone else, and that other person will absorb it. And that's what shame is. So it's literally like this cycle that's like, it's like a domino effect. It's like, like you just give it to the other person, you give it to the next, you give it to the next, and it just keeps passing it on. And that's what the origin of shame is. It's projection of someone else's shame onto you, because we are all born whole. We are born of the light. We are born perfect. We are born beautiful. And little by little, there are projections. And what I've realized is that as a very sensitive, highly sensitive person in my life, I've absorbed those projections. Really absorbed those projections. And that's what shame is. So I was really doing some work with learning how to not absorb people's projections anymore. Because I realize I can feel the second somebody projects something onto me. And I can feel when I'm internalizing it. And then I'm starting to understand when it's not mine, it's theirs. And then putting up a shield and saying, no, thank you, goodbye. That's what detachment is. Because that's also been how we've all also been collectively connected, is through a shame body. So we'll absorb the other person's shame because we feel bad for them, or whatever, however you want to look at it. That's really what the age of Pisces was about, very much so. And we're just no more putting up the shield, cutting through that bullshit. Not absorbing the projection. So then you can really begin to identify and define yourself on your own terms. So that's very much an Aries trait. Courage as a discipline. So this is kind of a big one. Courage as a discipline, meaning sustainable courage to follow through. So continuing. So it's not just, yeah, rah, siskumba, let's go. It's like, no, over time, I'm going to commit to this thing that takes a lot of courage. And I love Maya Angelou said the most important virtue is courage, because you need courage to execute all other virtues successfully. And people who are courageous are just like, man, isn't that the spice of life? Isn't that the fire of like creation? I mean, that's what really inspires me. And that is what the essence of inspiration is when somebody will stand up for themselves, for their life, for their energy. It's usually in that way, or someone else. But really, when people stand up for themselves and do things that are really, really scary in the face of the unknown and push through anyway because they feel in their bones they must, man, there's nothing that makes me happier than that. Nothing. Healthy selfishness and boundaries, sacred selfishness. Aries are known to be selfish. My sister's an Aries. It's like when it's her birthday, it's like her birthday for like the month before. It's like, my birthday's this month. Oh my God. It's insane. I'm a Virgo. I'm like quiet about my birthday. I don't even like talk about it. Anyway, but selfishness also, like, especially for people who are empathic, man, that's something we need to learn. meaning self-ish. You know, ish that shit. Self, meaning myself, ish. I'm going to ish myself. Self-ish. You remember how people are like, that one thing was like in Broad City, they had the Jew-ish. It's like Jew space-ish. It's like the same thing, like self-ish. Like, yeah, be into yourself, you know, like get into it. That's what an ish means, you know? Let's see. Some shadow questions. Where have you feared taking the lead in your life? What does embodied courage look like for you? Rooted, not performative. I've been doing a lot of courageous things lately. I've been doing a lot of courageous things, you know, and I swear the universe has just been like rewarding me. And you really build a lot of self-respect when you start aligning your life with what you feel is the truth. And you say, I'm not doing this anymore. Goodbye. Cutting that out. You know, whatever. And just respecting yourself. And if you have faith and you hold steady to a spiritual practice and you keep your mind focused and your imagination focused, you will create an incredible life, which is what's happening for me on many, many, many levels. So, committing to identity, mission, boundaries, independence. So this is going to be setting the tone. This next Saturn moving into Aries, which is happening on May 25th, which is at the end of this week, is really going to be setting the tone of the next 29 years. No big thing. But it's really committing to what you want to, your identity, your mission, your boundaries, your independence. Saturn's a big one. Saturn's the one we feel on planet Earth the most, I think, because it's so rooted in the material. And you can just feel when somebody has a heavy Saturn. You can feel it. They're really like practical. Sometimes that's a big issue with Saturn. It's like too practical. It's exhaustive. You know, it misses out on magic. The whole point is to Saturn is meant to support the mystical, not diminish or snuff out the mystical. So that brings me to the next point, which is because Saturn is now going to be in Aries, it's going to be conjunct it's very, very close by 1 degree with Neptune. I mean, so Neptune rules, it rules, you know, vision, imagination, working with the spirit realm, highest octaves of love. Neptune it can also be, it's called the dissolver. It's boundaryless. So it's the boundaryless planet and the boundaried planet. So what it's able to give you is really grounded, mystical. It's giving you access to the dream, really able to access the dream, but implement the dream. Start implementing your dreams, meaning taking grounded action. Neptune's ruled by Pisces, a watery creative element. Saturn's ruled by Capricorn. Capricorns get shit done on planet Earth. They build stuff. Earth and water. The other thing that could be happening during this conjunction would be collapse of false selves. I think that that's definitely true because it's such a powerful time of initiation that if there was something that was kind of hanging behind, that's just like, this doesn't feel right. You have access to a lot of courage right now, like to make shit happen and change things for yourself. And we need that. The earth is shifting massive. The earth, planet Earth, Mama, Gaia, all of it, the society, humans, consciousness, it's exploding, imploding, timelines being regenerated, new energies, and it is time for wise people of the planet, the priestesses, the witches, the empaths, everybody to kind of start to, we have access to vision, new vision for the new earth. And it's not going to be somebody else that does it. It's going to be us. So get off your butt and make it happen. Also the last themes for this is initiation of the spiritual warrior. I really believe that. I can feel that so deep in my bones. I've had a few conversations this last week that were just incredible. And, with some clients, and man, it is the initiation of the spiritual warrior because, there's an old world that's dying. You guys, like the old power structures of these old monolithic governments that think that they have so much power, we give them power and we're taking our power back, meaning we're not giving it to them anymore, meaning you have your connection to source. That's what's most important. You're on a spinning sphere in outer space that has light and dark. You are in this thing that we call a body with this consciousness. These systems that these silly men have created that are so outdated, that dismiss the humanity of all of us and turn us all into slaves for some bullshit power structure. So a few people at the top for what? And nobody's happy. Even the people that are at the top, I'm telling you, they're not happy. Nobody is happy in this system because it's lacking authenticity, creativity, and individuation. It's lacking spirit. And that is because it's coming back online. And these structures will naturally dissolve the more we wake up to our own God essence, meaning our ability to use our imagination and our consciousness to begin to create the world we want to see. So I just firmly believe that it's not even a belief, it's a knowing. I know that these structures, but they're going to be clawing at it because they're losing power and they know it, and they're afraid because they don't know anything else. But that's what's happening on a massive scale to all of us because we all are part of the system, right? So it's like, it's all internalized too, right? These systems of hierarchies, of slave culture, of giving your power away to other people, right? So once we start to take our power back, it dissolves their power. It dissolves their hold. Everything is energetic. Everything is energetic first. And that's what we're starting to understand is our consciousness. You can shape materiality with your consciousness. That's how materiality is shaped. So we've built a collective, in some ways, nightmare for many on planet Earth. And we can now start to, as we're waking up to the God within, meaning the light behind our own eyes is the light of God, the universe, to shape materiality as we like. I'm going to do some classes on this. Let me know if you guys want to know more about this because, it's really working with the imaginal faculty. It's Albert Einstein stuff. It's quantum healing stuff. And this is the era. This is what I have awakened to through my spiritual awakening, I will say. I've always kind of danced around all this stuff, but it could never fully clicked until now. And that's because of where we're at on planet Earth and the changing of consciousness. Anyway, I feel like this is a long one today. It is, but whatever, who cares? So the other piece that's happening this week is that the sun's going to be going into Gemini. Whoop, whoop. Gemini season's fun. I love Geminis. They're wild. You wild Geminis. They're chatty. They got ideas. They're curious. They're all over the place. But they move, man. They're interested. Gemini has one of my favorite one of my quotes I use for Gemini is like an Oscar Wilde quote, which is very true of a Gemini. Be curious, not judgmental. I feel like Geminis are very much like that. I mean, unless they have like, other things in their chart, blah, blah, blah. But Geminis are genuinely curious. They want to know. They're the information. They're ruled by Mercury, Thoth, Hermes, the messenger, recording information, gathering information, the journalist. At its highest, Gemini is a channel. So I think there's going to be some information that we're going to be able to have access to as Gemini season comes online. Writing, speaking, dreaming, mercurial stuff. Yeah. And then we also currently, right now, on this day, we have the Sun conjunct Uranus, which it won't be that long. Well, this next week it'll still be conjunct, which is the Great Awakener. I mean, the sun's the largest, strongest thing, one of the strongest things we feel. Conjunct Uranus is like, Uranus is like, it's like radical awareness, a radical new awareness of something, coming to your senses, especially around things that you value and new levels of self-worth. I think that's the way that's happening for me, is like getting a horse for me is like, I just feel like I've spent so many years, just like all of you listening, all of us, everybody, like working so freaking hard, just working. We've all been indoctrinated into work over pleasure. And the horse is giving me authentic pleasure. It's giving me honest, true yin energetics. That's what, I think that's a Uranus and Taurus moment. Awakening to pleasure on new levels. So think about how that might be affecting you in your life right now. All right, this is getting long. I appreciate you guys. Have a lovely week. And remember, courage, courage, courage. Courage, courage, courage. All right, love you.